Okay, we are on Psalm 63. Psalm 63. So, in whatever version you have, if you happen to have this version, it's on page 302, page 303, but otherwise just Psalm 63. Um, Nathan, you want to give us a read through?
Okay. מזמור לדוד בהיותו במדבר יהודה, אלוהים אלי אתה, אשחרק צמנה לך נפשי, קמה לך בשרי בארץ יה ועייף בלי מים, כן בקודש חזיתיך לראות עוזך ולכבודך, כי טוב חסדך מחיים שפתי ישבחונך. כן אברכך בחיי בשמך אשא כפי כמו חלב ודשן תשבע נפשי ושפתי רננות על פי אם זכרתיך על יצואי בשמורות הגה בך כי היית עזרת לי ובצל כנפיך ארנן דווקא נפשי אשר אחריך מי תמך ימינך והמה לשואה יבקשו נפשי יבוא ותחתיות הארץ יגירוהו על ידי חרב מנת שועלים יהיו והמלך ישמח באלוהים יתהלל כל הנשמע בו כי יסחר פי דוברי שקר. And this was a little difficult because yes, there's a song that's based on one of them that starts in the middle of a verse, so I wasn't sure when to I was reading it and then I wasn't sure should I jump into the words I know or not. And
Okay.
thank you for bearing with me. Yeah.
Okay. What was the verse that you were thinking of?
The second verse,
I
Elohim Eli Ata Ashachareka
Yeah.
צמא לך נפשי, קמה לך בשרי, בארץ צייה ואויב בלי מים. כן בקדש חזיתך ליראה סוסך וכבודך. Okay, I can post a link to our
That was
rendition.
very good. That was very good. That's so I've also been singing it all week. It's a very catchy it's a very catchy Chabad nigun. You actually cannot sing it, I don't think, without the Chabad accent.
Yes.
I feel like it doesn't work. But there are some great recordings of the Rebbe of the Lubavitcher Rebbe leading people in singing this particular nigun. It's a beautiful, beautiful nigun. Like all Chabad nigunim, it's much nicer if you sing it slowly, but they always sing it fast. I think that all Chabad nigunim, all of these were meant to be sung slow, right? Like like this one, right? If you normally you hear it as Tama lecha nafshi, kama lecha v'sari, beretziah. Very fast, right? But it's much nicer. Tama lecha nafshi. It's very much nicer. Um, it's very interesting. I got a little note up top that says, playing music, set up professional studio audio settings. Let me just say, this was nothing professional about the way I was singing. Promise you. Okay, we'll start. Mizmor David, a mizmor, a song that was revealed to David, Biyoto Midbar Yehuda, when he fled the desert of Yehuda. He fled to the desert. This is a very good example. I mentioned, I think, very early on that there are many psalms that kind of begin in a very kind of almost romantic, loving, soft way, and then kind of and will end on a more harsh note. this is one of those. This is actually one of those psalms. Um, it at the very end, it kind of switches tone in an interesting way. And Rabbi Steinsaltz explains this in a very beautiful way. He says, "This is, David HaMelech, or our psalmist, right, is our poet, is kind of by nature, a kind of a dreamy person, right, and gets lost in these, images of love and longing for God." And then all of a sudden, the real world hits him towards the end. He kind of goes into these reveries, and then all of a sudden, he remembers, oh, I live in the real world. And in the real world, there's all sorts of bad stuff, and he addresses that at the very end. This is a pretty good example of where that happens. So he starts out, Elohim Eliata, God, you are my God. And it would seem it's a very simple, it's a very simple thing. But I guess the best way to understand it is Elohim Eli Ata, that God, even though you're the God of the entire world, and Elohim is a God of justice, right? God of justice, and the God of nature, the God who's found in nature. It's the name that's used in the creation and mentioned many times in the creation. It says Eliata. It says, you are my God, right? That I have a personal relationship with you. It's not just that you're God of the entire world, but that you and I have this very personal, we have this very personal relationship. Uh, the Ashareka says, and I will search for you. I will search for you. And there are many ways that he talks about this. I mean, in many Psalms, he talks about his search for God and refers to the Mivakshei Hashem, the people who search for God, the people who ask for God, that we're not supposed to be just waiting for God to find us, but we should be looking to find Him. Sama lecha nafshi, my soul thirsts. My soul thirsts for you. Kama lecha bisari, and my flesh yearns for you. This is, so of course there's a parallelism between my soul and my flesh. It's not just the spiritual part of me that longs for God, but it's also even my physicality. Um, Forget where I first heard the expression, but I once read the expression, an embodied spirituality, right? It's not just, you know, we imagine sometimes that we are spiritual beings relating to God in some absolutely spiritual way, but that's not possible because we're not just spiritual beings, we're also physical beings. And our physicality, our feeling of being human beings, of uh, of of having a physical body, that's relevant that's relevant to our love for God, just as we feel love for human being in our bodies, right? Your heart, you feel it in your heart, right? That feeling that your heart is wrapped in wool. I don't know how people experience love others than me. I don't know about other people. Um, but that feeling is a physical feeling. So it's not just it's my soul thirsts and my even my flesh, even my body yearns for you. Be'eretz sia va'ayef bali mayim, a land that's dry and va'ayef. Um, Here he translated as a parched wasteland. The main meaning of va'ayef means tired. A dry and tired land. I think that's a great image, actually. A land that just doesn't look seem like it has any life in it. Beli mayim, without mayim, without water. And I can't help but to say it, but the Talmud says whenever we see the word water, water is always Torah. Water is always Torah. Um, and Mayim, if you want to go a little further, Mayim has the gematria, right? We could do a little gematria of 50, right? And 50 is Nun, which Rabbi Nachman says is the number of wisdom. There are 50 different levels of kedusha, of holiness. It represents kind of advancement and all this. So what? But water. Obviously if this is a, we have the image of a desert, right? There's nothing worse than a desert in which there is no water, right? There are deserts in which you can find water, right? I mean, there's wells that there's wells that you can dig. There are oases and places where you could get water, but this is as if, imagining your soul and your body in a place where there's nothing, right? Where there's absolutely no water, no wisdom to be found, no relief, no relief to be found. Kain b'kodesh hazitikra. Now I'm hearing it in my head. I'm hearing the nigun in my head. There's no way that you can possibly say these words and not hear that tune in your head. Kain b'kodesh hazitikra. Just as I saw you b'kodesh in the sanctuary, or in holiness. Lirot uzecha b'kodecha. So I long to see your your power and your glory. So here I am standing in the desert. My heart and my soul and my body are longing for you, and I feel like the world is dry and desolate, and there's no water. There's no water, and there's no nothing. And um and uh and I am completely lost. But I long to see your might and your glory. Ki tov chazdecha mechayim, because your love, your chesed, your kindness, is is more important than life itself, right? Because it really is life itself. Right? You realize that everything that you have, that all of your life force comes only from God. So his chesed is greater even than his chesed, his kindness greater than life itself. Svatai yishabchuncha. It says, and my lips proclaim your praise. Interesting. He doesn't say I proclaim your praise. My lips. It's coming naturally, right? It's flowing from me naturally out of this appreciation for you, right? Out of this appreciation for you and this desire to see your greatness and to see your glory and to see your power and this longing, right? I praise you spontaneously, right? My lips just begin to move. I don't have to force it. I don't have to think it up. It's just flowing. It's just flowing from me. And he says, Kumo says, V'chein avarecha b'chayai. I will bless you. It's a very interesting concept, I have to say. And it's kind of, I think, peculiar to Judaism, peculiar to Hebrew, this idea of blessing God. And as I think I've mentioned before, maybe in another context, there are two different approaches to this idea of blessing God. So one is that it doesn't really mean you're blessing God, because normally if I bless somebody, right? If somebody comes to me, this happened to me in Costco, okay? So if I go to Costco, I, I don't know why it is in Costco, but people not infrequently have asked me to bless their babies in Costco. I don't know why that is, but apparently there's some belief among Latino ladies that being blessed by somebody who looks like me can be good for you, right? So they say, please bless my baby. So what do I do? Of course, I bless the baby, right? I put my hands on the baby. I give a bracha, I make a blessing on the ba for the baby. And but that implies that I somehow have something that they don't have, right? So if I'm giving a blessing, it means I have a blessing to give that they don't have. So to bless God seems to imply that I have something that God doesn't have, which doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. So one perspective is that does not make any sense. And so therefore, when he says, for example, right, "Ken avrecha b'chayai," I bless God with my life, it it doesn't mean that he blesses. It doesn't mean he blesses God. It means that he acknowledges God as the blessed one, right? He acknowledges God as the source of all blessings. In this case, right, with his life, meaning as the source of his life, right? He acknowledges God as the source of blessing. Now, Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, a 19th century scholar, actually rejected that point of view. And he said, no, it actually means that we bless God. And he says this is that God gives us this superpower, right? It's true that God is more powerful than us, right? It's true that ultimately we do not have anything that God does not have. But God entrusted human beings with the power, right, to bless even him, right? Gave us in giving us free choice, right? In giving us free choice, in giving us rationality, in making us into creatures which are unlike any other creature, then he has um, then he has entrusted us with the power even to bless him. So you can take it as you will. He says, "Ki avracha b'chayai." It says, and here, so here, our our translator has avoided this completely by saying, "So I will thank you all my days." Okay, so uh, all my life I will thank you. Okay, he avoids this. He avoids this issue that it really means blessing. It's v'shimcha esa kapai, and it says, and your name I will lift, and in your name I will lift my hands in prayer. This, of course, is this, of course, is uh, the ultimate position of prayer. It's very interesting. There's an argument in Jewish law about when you're allowed to raise your hands, right? And how far you're allowed to raise your hands, right? Because if you raise your hands, right, it means that you have to have a sincerity, right? To raise your hands means you have to have a certain level of sincerity. It shouldn't be for trivial things, right? We shouldn't be raising our hands in prayer for trivial things. And we shouldn't be raising our hands like this, like in order to show off, because the people, they show off, right? So you don't want to show off, right? It says raise your hands as if you were a beggar, right? As if you're a beggar, talking to the Creator. He says, "For your hands, I will lift. So I'll lift my hands. I'll lift my hands in prayer." Kamo chelev v'deshen tizban nafshi. He says, my soul is satisfied like with rich food and abundance. The word chelev really means fat, fatty foods, you know? Nothing is more satisfying than a good, rich, fatty anything, right? Okay, we're not we're you know we're serious eaters here. Okay. So he says, my soul is satisfied as if I had eaten like this wonderful meal with, with nice fatty foods and 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 Videshan, like it really means like crops, like anything, like any kind of, vegetables, things that are, um, you know, uh, um, satisfying. Usvatai yiranut yahalapi says, my mouth will praise you with songs. My mouth will, actually, Svatai, my Visvatai, and my lips, Renanot Yahalapi, and my mouth will will praise you with songs of joy. Renanot are like happy songs, right? Happy songs, songs of praise. So again, like the images. I'm sitting at the table. My soul is satisfied, and in that satisfaction of just thinking about you, just thinking about God. Like I'm so filled with joy that I burst out into song. Ve'im zacharticha al yitzua be'eshmorot egebach. He says, as I lay on my bed, I remember you. I remember you on my bed. So Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, raises this as proof that David HaMelech used to meditate in bed. Right? Some people have the question, can I talk to God in bed? There's that moment before you go to sleep or you lay down, and it's kind of the end of the day. And for me, I don't know about other people, but for me, like the whole day passes before my mind. I think about everything that happened during the day, whether I like it or not, right? Whether I like it or not, whether it was good or whether it was bad. The day kind of re gets reviewed. And and I'm relaxed, right? I'm relaxed. I'm in a kind of relaxed position and so forth. And so the question comes, can I pull the covers over myself? Can I pull the covers over myself and talk to God at that moment? And Rabbi Nachman says, look, David HaMelech, he did it, right? Here it says, as I lay on my bed, I remember you, right? That he thinks about God when he's laying in bed. And so Rabbi Nachman said that that's a perfect time to talk to God, right? When you're relaxed like that and you're thinking about your day, it's a great time to do your hiddabodedut to you. When you're nice and alone, you just talk. You have a great time to talk to God. And he says, Ve'esh morod, through the watches of the night, egebach, I meditate on you. Right? I meditate on you. Rashi says kind of an interesting thing that people wake up sometimes in the middle of the night. It's normal for people to wake up in the middle of the night. I think it's Rashi. I think if my memory serves me. And people wake up in the middle of the night, and most people just kind of roll over and go to sleep. But if God is always on your mind, if you're always meditating on God, then when you wake up in the middle of the night and it's quiet and it's peaceful, right? Then you're going to use that opportunity, right, to think about God. You're going to use that opportunity, right? You're not just going to roll over and go to sleep. And so he's saying, my mind is focused on God all night, and when I'm lying in my bed, when I'm lying in my bed, I remember him. Ki hayita Izratali, because you have surely been my help. Ubetzel kanafecha aranin, and I rejoice under the shadow of your wings. This is, I sometimes, I sometimes imagine when I'm in bed and I'm laying there and I'm spending a little bit of time talking to God that, I'm sheltered under God's wings, so to speak, right? I'm protected and safe and happy and to do that. So Davka nafshi acherecha says my heart, my soul clings to you. This concept of davka, of to cling to God, is a very, very deep concept. You know, it means to be so attached to God that sometimes you can't feel the distinction between you, right? We call it devekut, right? The state of cleaving to God, the state of clinging to God, where where the closeness and intimacy is so close and so intimate that sometimes you can't feel the difference, right? That you feel so close that you become nullified. You become nullified at God. And he says, so my soul clings from you, ki tamcha yeminecha, because your right hand supports me. Which, if you think about it, is a beautiful image, right? Your right hand supports me means that you're cradling me, right? You're cradling me. Your right hand, not just that you're patting me on the back, but that you're holding me, right? So uh, this is a very almost romantic image, right? The of the right hand supporting. Now, now we get to the dark part. Now we get to the dark part. He says, "Hema l'shoav akshu nafshi." So in the dark, the shoah can also mean like to utterly destroy. Um, so so they the enemies the enemies pursue my life in order to utterly destroy me. Yava'u b'tachtiyot haaretz, tachtiyot haaretz. Let them fall into the very depths of the earth, right? So let them stumble down into the very depths of the earth. Um, Yagiruhu al yedei charev. Let them be dragged along al yedei charev by means of the sword. Manashu alim yiyu. Let foxes. So literally that they be prey for foxes, but or that they be left for the foxes. But he translates it according to Rashi, let the foxes prowl in the ruins of their homes. Right? Apparently, foxes love to hang around ruins. I don't know, the foxes around here don't seem to do that, but maybe the Shoalim in Israel, maybe they do that. They hang around in ruins looking for little mice and things that hang out in the cracks and crevices of things. Um, and so, let their homes become ruins, and the foxes trample all over them. Says V'hamelech yismach belohim, and the king, referring to himself, because he's already been anointed king. He says, "V'hamelech yismach belohim." The king will rejoice in God. Yitalel zv'kol nishba bo, and all who have pledged themselves to him will rejoice. Ki yisacher pi divrei shaker. He says, when the mouths of liars, when the mouths of liars are sealed. That's how he ends it. So he ends it in this by addressing the resistance, by addressing the enemy. Um, so we go in just two verses, or one, two, three, one, two, three. In three verses, we kind of go from this very beautiful beginning of longing and of longing and talking about meditating, about meditating on God in our beds, to addressing the enemies. Um, but he does end with this Hamelech Yismach Elohim, the God, that the end, that the king will be rejoicing in God. So, what do we think of the psalm? Thoughts? Everybody's very quiet. Okay.
The
It
Sephardi,
was a perfect psalm to end the fasting now.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay, I'm glad that we found a good end of fast psalm.
Yep.
And
Just time. Just
may
now it's time
you know
to
the and may you be kabo chelev v'deshen tasbi nafshi. May it be that your soul is satisfied on the good food and your mouth praises God. So it should be.
I mean, I'll make my dua for all of you too.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. More thoughts? Okay, I'm going to end there because I don't want to start the next
the
song.
Sepharia makes it sound as though they're going to be the enemies are going to be killed and they won't get a proper burial.
Oh,
Says, may they be gutted by the sword, may they be prey to jackals. And
oh,
jackals are scavengers.
oh, wow. Well, that's
So that's a very dishonorable, it's not just are they going to be, not only are they going to enter the depths of the earth, but they're not even going to get a decent burial.
yeah. Well, and also in the Middle East, being eaten by dogs is about the worst thing that can happen to you. That's a that's a that's a pretty even today, throwing somebody into the desert without burying them, knowing that they're going to be eaten by the jackals is one of the worst things you can do to somebody. So that's yeah. If that's what it is, that's pretty rough. Yeah, that's pretty rough. Yeah, maybe foxes is too general in translation. I have to look at I have
I don't
a
know. Safaria says jackals.
jackals. I like that. Okay. Okay. I was once surrounded by jackals in India, and they were terrifying. That's all I can say. They were small, but they were terrifying. Okay.
How much longer does Ramadan last?
Mm, at least the 29th, possibly the 30th as well.
Yeah.
So it's the last 10 days now.
Yeah. It's the last 10 days, which are special. The last 10 days are special, and the night of power, and there's a lot of
Yeah, that
lot of
could be tonight.
good stuff. Yeah, it could be tonight. So don't forget to make dua for all of us.
I
And
will promise, inshallah.
I wish everybody a meaningful and not too hard fast. And for the rest of you, and I hope to see you guys on Wednesday. And be well. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.